I'm here with Daniel Moore, Chief Risk Officer of Scotiabank, and once again we're here to celebrate International Literacy Day, which is coming up on the 8th of September. Now Daniel, I know that reading and being curious is a very important attribute for you. How do you actually nurture this learning within yourself and those that you support?
Yeah, Bruce, thanks. Look, I think one of the important learnings of this pandemic era is that we don't know what we don't know. And continuous learning is so important so we can adapt and be agile to the circumstances we have around us. And reading is an important part of that continuous learning, I believe. It keeps us curious, keeps us informed, keeps us humble in our opinions. When you're reading, you can take perspectives of others, you can think more rationally, and we can always learn from others around us. And learning, curiosity, that humility that comes with that, that engenders trust, because it opens you up to a diversity of opinions. Diversity, we know, is so important, and ultimately gives you better decision-making in fast-moving circumstances.
So one of the things that you do over in Scotiabank is you put out a regular reading list. So what have you got on your hit list at the moment?
Yeah, well, I brought up a few things. First of all, I've always got this with me. It's simple, it's easy. If I'm going somewhere quickly, I can just throw it in the bag, and it's got dozens of books on it. It's wonderful. This one came from the bedside table. It's called, if you can see that, Linked by Barabasi. It's about how our networks run everything that we do these days, from how the internet works to how viruses spread. I've got The World's Banker here, which is an old book about the World Bank and how it helps developing economies that are going through trying times. That one's on the to-read list, actually, to reread. And I've got a couple of books here on prediction, one by Nate Silver and the other called Super Prediction. And these are on the to-read list. And I love having a stock of books that's always in the in-queue to read. And sometimes I read all of them, sometimes I read parts and move on to the next one. I love reading about AI and machine learning. There's so much innovation happening right now, Bruce. I also think, you need to take every opportunity that you have around you to read. So that means not only reading these books at the bedside table, but also I've got a continuous stream of podcasts I'm listening to and audiobooks. I like to take the family out to the country sometimes in the weekend. That's a 2.5 hour drive for us. So if I'm by myself, I'll pop an audiobook in and I'll listen to it. And the last one that I listened to was a book called Sapiens. It's quite a tome. It's quite a considerable read, but it's by Yuval Noah Harari, and it talks about the micro and the macro in terms of the evolution of the human species. It was fascinating, a great read. I've gotten on to just about everything by Pushkin Industries, which is Malcolm Gladwell's new podcast production company. And one of my favorite ones right now, I've done all of Against the Rules by Michael Lewis, and I've worked my way through Cautionary Tales by the Financial Times economist Tim Harford. And that is very pandemic focused as well. So it talks about how past accidents, past challenges have given us lessons that we can learn and apply to the current circumstances. So always be reading, even if it's just listening reading. I think that's so important. And there's so many different platforms, whether it be audiobooks, podcasts, Kindle, or real books that you can read from today.
Is it just nonfiction you read, or do you read fiction as well in there?
Yeah, I've got a terrible, terrible bad habit, which is I only read nonfiction, Bruce. I can't tell you the last time, I can't recall the last time that I read a fiction book. It's always been my thing since I was a teen, and I just think there's so much fascinating nonfiction out there that I spend my time reading it. That being said, we all love a mindless moment. And it's great to pick up a little fantasy from time to time. I tend to get that through film. I love film. And I'm just finishing up right now, catching up on my Harry Potter films with my 2 6-year-old twins who are finally old enough to watch it.
So I must say, it's an interesting time to be a risk manager at the moment. What would be your advice to risk managers in this unprecedented time?
But it comes back, I think, to those two values. It's curiosity and humility, in your opinion, because we all have clearly so much to learn. We thought in January, we didn't think anything like this was going to happen in January. In March, we thought we'd all be coming out of lockdown. Look, here we are, Bruce, talking to each other from our homes over a Zoom chat. I think the banks have performed remarkably well through this period. We've got a good handle on our credit risk. but also the resiliency we've shown in operational risks and cyber risk and reputational risk as we've dealt with many of our customers' challenges through this period. And if you go back 10, 15 years, those risks weren't even on our risk manager's radar. So now they're part of the panoply of things we need to worry about. And it's that curiosity, always trying to anticipate what could be out there that we don't know about, that's critical. I would say focus very much these days on operational risk, and operational risk from a perspective of end-to-end continuity. That concept of resiliency that's talked so much today, I think is so important. Ask questions. Ask questions of yourself, people around you. There are no dumb questions, and be a continuous learner, because the world is so rich, there is so much to know, and there are so many platforms and resources out there to learn from.
So I recently penned an article saying that risk management is a perishable skill. The risk management that I learned back, when I started banking compared to what it's like now, that's why that continuous learning is so important, because there's just, you don't know what's going to be out there.
I couldn't agree with that more. And the world is changing so fast. So the risks that we have in front of us are moving very, very quickly. The risk bag has gotten so much bigger. We still have all those credit risks and market risks that we focused on 15 years ago, but now we have so much more. And unless you're up to speed and have something to say about them, you're really not doing your job.
Hey, this is fantastic catching up with you again, Daniel. All the best. I'll catch up with you soon.
Bruce, great to see you. Cheers.